welcome to this session of supplement tutorials. Today we'll be talking about hematology and we will be discussing introduction to hematology. Before you start watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button and then you can also like or share. So let's get going. So today we'll be dealing with hematology. So when we say hematology, it basically means the study of blood. And we know that blood itself does not consist of one component. Blood consists of many components. When we take blood, we can have the plasma, we can have the WBCs, or the what is known as the white blood cells, or leukocytes. We can also have RBCs, what is known as red blood cells, or erythrocytes. Another name for the platelets. Then we have the last one, platelets. Platelets, which is also thrombocytes. So all these ones constitute the blood. Now, when you put blood, a whole blood, normally for routine hematological tests, we use a tube with the lavender top, what we call the EDTA tube. So when we put a whole blood in this, and then the blood settles, it shows the proportion of each component that has settled. So we will have 45% of the component being the red blood cells or the packed cells. 45% of the component being the red blood cells or the packed cells. Then we may also have approximately 55% of the remaining, being the plasma. Approximately 55% being the plasma. Then we have the remaining being what we call the Buffy coats. So we have our red blood cells over here, or packed cells. Then we have our Buffy coats. Now the Buffy coat consists of the WBCs, that's the white blood cells, and the platelets. And then here we have our plasma. So this is the constitute of the blood. We have packed cells to be 45% in composition. Then we have the plasma to be approximately 55%. Then we have the remaining 5% being the Buffy coat. Alright. So that is it for the composition of blood. So blood has a lot of function. We can talk about the transport function. We can talk about the protective function. Then we can talk about homeostasis. That is balance function. Okay, so maybe we can talk about, let's say, healing. That is when we talk about the platelets. Healing, or let's say clotting function. So we can actually group the functions of the blood based on their component. So functions of blood based on their component. So when we take plasma, we can talk about transportation of nutrients, hormones, and other dissolved substances. Then in the plasma, we have what we call the complement proteins, or what we call clotting proteins. These proteins are responsible for blood clotting. So proteins like, say, fibrinogen, which is also known as clotting factor 1, helps in blood clotting. Then we also have fluid balance. So plasma also help in fluid balance between, let's say, between the intracellular cellular compartment, and the extracellular compartment. Okay, so that will be for the plasma. So when we talk about the red blood cells, we can talk about transport of oxygen from the lungs to all parts of the body, or we can say to the cells. Then to the cells, we can also talk about transport of carbon dioxide from the cells to the lungs for exhalation. Okay, then we can talk about the white blood cells, the function of the white blood cells. Okay, so one thing about the plasma, So about the plasma, they also contain immunoglobulins, which are responsible for fighting against pathogens. So when we start talking about immunology, that is when we are going to delve much deeper into the immunoglobulin aspects. So WBCs, the functions of WBC, we can talk about inflammation. So they help in inflammation. We will discuss more on inflammation when we start talking about immunology. Then we can talk about protective protective function, where we can talk about the white blood cells like monocytes, eosinophils, basophils, lymphocytes, etc. Each of these white blood cells have their own specific pathogens they fight. Some fight viruses, some fight bacteria, some fight fungi, some fight helminths, or let's say parasites. Alright. So these are the functions that we can discuss under blood. So next time we will talk more about we'll dive deeper into each of the blood components. Then we'll see how far we will go. Okay. Kindly tap on the next video that talks about hematopoiesis, or how blood components is formed. Alright. See you next time.